Hi, this is Jason Major, and I'm doing another movie review today. This time about Redeeming Love, directed by DJ Caruso, and based on the book by Francine Rivers. And it stars Abigail Cohen as Angel, Tom Lewis as Michael Hosea, Logan Marshall Green as Paul, Fank Jensen as the Duchess, and Eric Dane as the Duke. So those are kind of the main characters in the story, and the most famous of them, for me at least, is Jensen, who was most famous for being in the one of the James Bond movies, GoldenEye, as well as she was Jean Grey in the original X-Men films, the ones that starred Professor X. So what can I tell you about this the movie? First of all, it's based on this book by Francine Rivers, which is basically a Western version of the biblical story of Hosea. So in the Bible story, Hosea was a prophet, and God tells him to fall in love with a prostitute as a symbol of the unfaithfulness of Israel. Hosea marries the prostitute, and then she keeps on running away and then coming back and has children by other men. And then eventually she is sold into slavery, and then once more Hosea has to rescue her again. And then he says, "You will only love me, and I will only love you." And then the story kind of is a symbol of God's love for Israel, or God's love for us. In other words, like us who do not choose Him, and but He is the perfect husband who was just wooing us to Him. So that's kind of what the biblical story was, and then the novelization and by Francine Rivers in the novel. I think Hosea the prophet has existed, and the Bible stories have existed. So it's just like he's just repeating the sort of same story. But it's a Western set in the 1800s in California during the California Gold Rush. And basically, he is a cowboy and a farmer, and then he basically is praying to God and asking for the perfect wife. And then the perfect wife shows up in the form of this wonderful woman named Angel, who ends up being a prostitute. So I'm going to talk mostly about the film, because the book is a wonderful book. I really recommend this book. It's one of my favorite books. I've read it more than once. And the book really is about over 450 pages, but it's a really excellent book, and it's a really great Western kind of romance story. So let's talk about the movie. The movie's directed by DJ Caruso, and like I said, it has these kind of people who are not famous to me, like Abigail Cohen, and the movie, from in terms of how it compares to the book, Francine Rivers did have some direct involvement with this story, so there is it is the story from the book, and it follows all the main plot beats of the book, and that I really respect the fact that it did, because there were some plot lines I thought they were going to take out entirely, but they don't. So for the people going to see this movie, and you were saying, what's it about? Well, the movie starts out with Michael Hosea as a farmer, and then he basically sees this beautiful girl named Angel, and he kind of chuckles and he says, "Oh, God, she must be the one you sent for me." And then he realizes she's a prostitute, and so he tries to win her affection by paying for time for her and basically going to her and saying, "Listen, I believe that you're supposed to be my wife, so let me take you out of this prostitution, and I will marry you, and I'll give you a good life." And it's not a spoiler to say that obviously at first she refuses, and then she eventually comes to a point of despair where she really has no choice, but because she's been beat up, and says, "Yeah, okay, sure, why not?" And then she starts going to him, and then obviously she'll keep on going backwards and saying, "No, I don't deserve this," and sort of leave him, and then eventually finds herself trapped in her old life again. So that's kind of the plot without spoiling the details of the movie. Now, I personally thought that this movie, it's hard for me to review because I love the book so much, and so for me as a viewer watcher, I do watch a lot of Christian films. I would say that there's a part of me that says this is actually an excellent movie, and it's really well done. Now, from the movie critic side, I can understand that movie critics will go like, for example, and it's not spoiled because it's in the first few minutes of the movie. He literally goes into a church and says, "God, find a girl for me." And then he basically sees this girl on the street. He's never seen her before. He doesn't have an interaction with her before, and he literally sees her and says, "Wow, who is she?" And he's texting to his friend, and and the guy says, "Oh, that's Angel. She's from the brothel down the street." He's all like, "Well, I guess God has a sense of humor, and it is her." You know what I mean? Like, I get that a movie critic would go like, "Well, what? I don't understand. What attracts him to Angel outside of the fact that she's beautiful?" You know what I mean? There's no reason. And in the book, it kind of made it more clear that, like, I think that, like he had, it was more clear, like, he said, is like, "Oh, okay, obviously this is, I sense that this is who God has chosen for me." You know what I mean? Yeah, because it says, "Who's the man with her?" And it says, "Her husband." And it's like, more like a bodyguard, and then he realizes, "Oh Lord, did I misunderstand? I must have. This can't be the one." So there's at least that inner tension of him trying to, they maybe they could have done a scene, I think, where maybe he meets her in the town and thinks she's an innocent little person, and she's buying, like, I don't know, fruits or vegetables, and then he chuckles to himself and says, "Wow, that was a really great encounter. I really had fun with this lady," and then later on finds out that she's a prostitute and then questions himself. But I guess they're trying to, they have a lot to go through in the story, and as it stands, it's over 2 hours. So here's what I would say. Critically, yes, there are parts that could have been expanded upon to, like, flesh out maybe the characterization of why characters do certain things. You probably could have done that, and it could have made a great 3-hour miniseries, without commercials, 3 hours as a miniseries on TV or something, like a Gone with the Wind or type of series, or, what I mean, I'm not comparing it as good as Gone with the Wind. I'm just saying in that genre of Southern romance. But I think that in a way, by cutting it down, it's getting to the heartbeat of the story, and the story flows better. So it's like you would have won more in terms of fleshing out the characters, but you would have got less in terms of the fact that, like, the movie would have been a slower pace. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? So it would have been, your either trade off is a slower pace, and that could lead to maybe you being bored with the movie, or a quicker pace, and then just the movie goes by faster. Now, the movie is about a girl who becomes a prostitute. You know what I mean? I know that some reviewers were making a big deal and stink about this, but without getting into the movie, it is PG-13. It's PG here in Canada, so there is everything is implied, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? And I'll just say it like that for the sake of my video, is that you never actually see anything. There's conveniently hair in the way or something in the way. I think it's the best way of saying it in a respectful manner, is that everything there's nothing in here that you wouldn't see in a PG-13 film. You know what I mean? That's dealing with this subject matter. And but as a romance film and as a story, I felt that it was very satisfying and very uplifting by the end. It doesn't end on a tragic note. It ends on a romantic note. It isn't necessarily as nice and clean as maybe a Hallmark movie, you know what I mean, like one of those Hallmark Valentine stories, but it does fall in that genre, in my opinion, of a Western romance. And I think that, maybe ages 13 and up, just otherwise see it for yourself and then judge it. But I recommend this movie. I'm going to give it, tentatively for now, an 8 out of 10. Critically, it probably doesn't deserve that. Probably is a little bit down. But I think if you're like me and you see the trailer and you go, yes, I like this story, I like this idea, you will get what you're looking for and you will enjoy the movie. And the movie trailer shows you exactly what it is. So you know that this is not, for 6-year-old kids. This is for maybe some older kids who are going to understand the content of the story. I highly recommend it. It's a great movie. go enjoy Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers. Thank you very much. This is Jason Major. Until next time, bye.